All right, so this bozo right here is Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, and in more recent times, he's really been showing himself to be I don't know, an America Last type guy. He also doesn't. He's been proposing a lot of ideas that aren't really the brightest. And yeah, he's. I don't know if he's been like this always. I only started paying attention to more local politics more recently, like within the past few years. Obviously, he's been a senator for the state for much longer than just a few years. So maybe he's always been an idiot, and I never realized. But now that I've been paying attention, wow, is he terrible. Anyhow, recently he posed he wanted to tackle the, I don't know, people who are struggling financially by proposing an idea to increase minimum wage to $25 an hour, which I had previously already made a video talking about. I think at the time of this upload, it's about 6 videos back. Anyhow, obviously, I went over everything in that video as to why that is a dumb idea. But here's the thing. I ended up coming across this post on Facebook more recently than my original video, which makes me feel like it's still just a current thing. I mean, it could be that this Mike Ortiz guy on Facebook just recently reposted it or whatever, so maybe it's the same talking point from last time, but it feels like it's something new, which means it's still being talked about, which means this idiot still thinks it's a good idea. So, I just kind of wanted to talk about it again. Unfortunately, because there's going to be a lot to talk about, this is going to most likely be at least a 2-part video, possibly 3. I'm not a fan of that. I'm sure you're not either. Everyone likes it when everything's all in one video, but there's a lot to say, and I only have 10 minutes, and I've already burned through 2 minutes doing this long intro, so leaves me with 8 minutes. So anyways, let's get into it. Before we really get started, I want to say a couple things, just right off the bat, about how this doofus thinks that $25 an hour minimum wage is a good idea. One, it shows that he has very, very low critical thinking skills. I mean, think about it. He had a problem arise, whether people are saying it to him or he's just sitting there in his office thinking like, people are struggling financially. Minimum wage is, one of the most common jobs people get. And so his solution is literally an elementary school student's idea. This is like a first or second grader's solution, a 6 or 7-year-old child's solution. Think about it. If you're a teacher in a class and you're like, okay, class, let's say mommy and daddy are struggling at their job. They make minimum wage and they're just having a hard time getting by. What do you think could be done so mommy and daddy can have more money? Or whatever. The kids would be like, their job can pay them more. And then they'd say something like $25 an hour, because since they don't understand money and numbers really, they'd think that that's a real high amount. Then they'd probably all giggle, thinking that $25 an hour is just some ridiculous amount of money. And then the teacher would entertain it. Oh, yeah, that's a start. That's an idea. Any other ideas, class? Well, yeah, that's as far as this idiot went. He can't think any deeper than a surface level of what a 6 or 7-year-old would think. That's as far as it goes. His critical thinking, terrible. This is an elected official. This is a guy who's probably over 40 years old, maybe pushing 50. I'm not sure how old he is, but I'm just guessing. At least in his 40s. And, that's as far as he can think? Is as far as a 6-year-old can think? Come on, brother. You're supposed to be like a lawmaker and all this, and the best you can do is basic thought? Like, you thought of a problem, and the only solution you can think of is the first thing. Bing! I know, make minimum wage super high. That'll fix the problem. Wow. The second thing that this shows about him is that he has moderate IQ. What I mean is, he's not very smart, but at the same time, he's not very dumb either. See, when I think of a politician that's really dumb, I think AOC, I think Jasmine Crockett, I think, what's her name, Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. I think those morons, they are dumb. So they're probably lingering around like sub 80 IQ. This idiot I don't think is sub 80, but I also don't think he's real stellar either. I'd guess based on how he can't think very critically, I'd say he's maybe 85 to 90 IQ, which, is right around the bell curve. Bell curve in the middle is 100, so he's slightly under because he can't critically think. But at the same time, it's not something you'd brag about. You know, you're not going to walk around saying, oh, I got an 85 IQ, unless you're an idiot. Then again, who knows? Maybe if you do have an 85 IQ, you don't understand how the IQ system works. So you think of it as like a test, 0 to 100, which means you would brag about an 85. Hey, I got an 85 on my IQ test. Not bad, right? Not understanding that, no, that's pretty low. Considering, like, you know, 120 is good and above, and you only got an 85. I mean, even 100's average, and you're still below that. But, you know what I'm trying to say? Making a little joke here. So yeah, that's what I think about this guy. Like, clearly he is not showing that he has much intelligence. If that's the best he can come up with, is shooting the minimum wage up. Anyways, now let's get into the real criticism of his tweet and just everything that I want to say about it. Oh, another thing too, before we get going, I forgot to mention, I don't really know what his plan is with the $25 an hour pitch. I don't know if this is nationally that he wants to make it 25, so that means it's going to go from like $7.65 an hour or whatever it currently is to $25, which is an insane jump. You're talking what, almost 4 times an increase, like 3.5 times increase, 350% increase. That's ridiculous. If he's talking locally, I mean, he is a Connecticut senator, but, you know, he seems to travel all over the country and sometimes the world, which I don't quite understand. You're supposed to represent Connecticut, not California or Ukraine or whatever, but sure, you do you, I guess. But if he's talking about Connecticut, that's still about a 50% boost. I mean, we're already at, like, what, $16.94? So the $25 an hour, you know, that's just about a 50% increase. So that's pretty ridiculous as well. But yeah, so I don't know what context he's talking, but either way, both contexts are terrible. So anyways, this idiot in his post said, in the most affluent, most powerful nation in the world, everyone who works full-time should be able to pay their bills. A minimum wage should be a living wage, and that's $25 an hour. The billionaire class will say we can't afford it. They are wrong. We can. I really want to get into a lot of stuff, but just on the surface level, like, there's a lot of stupidity just in this post itself. First off, where are you coming up with $25 an hour as the livable wage? Like, literally, where did you come up with that? Did you have a team actually do any kind of, like, statistical analysis and crunch the numbers properly? Or did you just, like, think of a number that sounded good and you're like, $25 an hour works? Like, what's the support on this? Like, I feel like this is just a wild claim. You just came up with $25 an hour and you're like, sounds good. And then the second thing, the billionaire class will say we can't afford it. They are wrong. We can. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not even a millionaire. I'm not even like 100,000-aire. And I can tell you that this is ridiculous and very impractical and unaffordable. Why you chose to attack billionaires in this tweet makes absolutely no sense at all. Billionaires also live in a different realm than the rest of us. I don't mean because they have way more money. I just mean they have a lot of money tied up in their businesses, in stocks, in real estate, in a variety of things. It's not like they're walking around with $1 billion in the bank and they can just go to the ATM and be like, yeah, I think I'll take out $2 million today. It's not how it works. So they're not like us. Our money is actually our money. We can go to the bank. You know, if we say we have $1,000 to our name, we probably have $1,000 in our bank account. A billionaire might be net worth of $1 billion, but maybe in their bank account it's only $50,000. Like, because it's their home, it's their stock portfolio, it's their real estate portfolio, it's their everything else that contributes to that net worth. So I don't know what he's trying to say here, calling out billionaires. I think it's just because it's a buzzword with the left and the liberals and Democrats. Oh, he's calling out the Democrats. I mean, the billionaires. Oh, look. And then they are wrong, we can. Again, have you run any kind of like statistical models or anything? Have you actually done like put this number into like a simulator and let it run for like the equivalency of like a decade, let's say, in the simulator? Don't really let it run for a decade, but like an accelerated simulator. Did you let it run for a decade and see what would happen with all real world type situations affecting this model? Did you do that? And actually be able to prove that this stupid claim is accurate? That they are wrong and we can't afford this? Because I highly doubt it. I don't even think you probably even thought of doing anything like that. You're just making wild claims and you just want people to support your dumb nonsense. And so you make this stupid post just to pitch your terrible idea that you thought about for about 7 seconds. minimum wage going up to $25 an hour would basically kill a lot of small businesses. And if it doesn't kill them, then it would severely impact them. Think about it this way. Let's say you're a small business and you hire, I don't know, 1 or 2 employees, just so that then maybe you can have the weekends off, or you have somebody there with you while you're working so that you can focus on, doing whatever you got to do behind the scenes, whether it's sourcing more product to sell, or trying to get with more vendors, or just trying to set your shop up to look nice and presentable, or whatever it might be, even if it's just paperwork and you got to be in the office. So you have one employee who can run the register and maybe, keep the place clean and tidy and what have you. Well, right now, if you're going by federal minimum wage, you're only paying them 7 something an hour. And if it's by Connecticut standards, okay, well, it's $16.94. Kind of a lot, but it's something that you can handle right now. You have your 2 employees, so you're doing fine. But now let's say minimum wage goes to $25 an hour. Well, if it's on the federal level, basically minimum wage just increased by 3 times, which means you had 2 employees, and maybe that's all you could afford. Now it's like you have to pay for the equivalency of 6 employees. And this happens overnight. If this crap passes, it's just an immediate boop. You go from paying 7 whatever an hour to your 2 employees, so like $14 an hour equivalency or whatever. Oh, let's say 15, round up. $15 an hour equivalency for your 2 employees to now $50 an hour equivalency for your 2 employees. That's going to be ridiculous. If you're a small business and maybe you have a niche product that you sell, a niche market that you cater to or whatever. Maybe you only pull in, let's say, $300,000 a year, and that's just everything. So then you got to pay for your electricity and the rent and the blah, blah, blah. So then say you only have half of that left as profit. Then you got to pay your employees, and you're trying to pay yourself a little, and have money left for the business as well, so then you can help it grow. Like, you're spread real thin now. So now you either have to lay an employee off, and now it becomes a little tighter because now it's just you and the 1 employee. Maybe you got to cut your employees' hours down. Maybe before they were able to both have 40 hours, but now because minimum wage is so astronomical, maybe now they can only work 30 hours each, 25 hours each or something. So now they're getting shafted. Sure, hourly wage is much higher, but they're getting less hours. I mean, I guess it would balance out. You know what I mean? Minimum wage, if it's federal, it's 3 times as much now. So if you're working half as much, you're actually making out and still making more money. But you know what I mean? Like, your hours are cut. So your overall potential, even though it's skyrocketed by 3 times, you're not really achieving that. You're almost breaking even because you have less hours. Or the person just lets go of both their employees, and now they have to rework their business. Either they got to work every day and never be able to enjoy life and have a day off, or they need to figure out a day or two when they can just close their business so they can have a day off, or have reduced hours. Maybe instead of being open all day on a Monday, they close at noon or something. Either way, it's affecting their business. They can't be open as long as they would like to, which now means that they're not making money. If they have to close at noon, say they normally stay open until 6. Well, that's 6 hours that you're not having any business at all. And it's all because this dickhead thought, hey, $25 an hour makes sense. We should be paying our people that. No. It's going to massively affect people just trying to make it on their own. Yeah, if you're really, really small, then you probably just work for yourself. No big deal. No change there. But if you're big enough to need an employee or 2, it's going to hurt you. So that's reason number 1 why this is stupid. Reason number 2 is, think about the places that are minimum wage jobs, okay? McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, gas station tenant, etc. These jobs are places that sell a product that a lot of people are trying to enjoy. I'm trying to think the best way to phrase this. What I mean is, let's say you go to McDonald's. It's fast food. The whole point of why you go there is, you want something quick that's going to taste good and not cost too much. And that's the whole point. You go to McDonald's, you go in the drive-thru. In theory, you should be in and out 5 minutes tops, But what'll happen is all of that could change once everything goes to $25 an hour, because you think that a place like McDonald's, let's say, is going to want to lose any profit. If they got to start paying their employees $25 an hour, that means their labor is insanely high. I mean, think about how many employees they have. When I used to work there, I worked there from basically all my college days. And then I worked there as a second job once I got into my industry because, entry level, you're not making too much money. So I worked at McDonald's for a couple of years even after I started in my industry. So overall, I have 8 years that I worked at McDonald's. And I think at our peak, we had like 88 regular employees, plus there was like 10 managers between all the shifts. So you're looking at 98 employees total. Now, when I worked there, I was a manager, but minimum wage was like $8.25 an hour. So I was making $9.10 an hour as a manager, almost $1 more than the regular employees, and yeah, wasn't that much. But now you're saying $25 an hour. So these people would basically be making more than double what I made, almost 3 times as much as what I made as a manager, just to be a regular crew person, which means, you have, let's say they still have 98 employees total at a McDonald's. That's going to skyrocket their payroll costs. So now what happens? Either A, they lay off a ton of people because they're like, whoa, we can't afford this. Which means now the people that do still have a job are being way overworked. They're also going to be short-staffed all the time. So now, that 5-minute, in theory, drive-through time becomes like 15, 20 minutes. Because instead of having enough people on staff, you're kind of real thin. Now instead of having somebody in back booth to take orders and money, and somebody at the window to hand out the food, and somebody up front to run and push the food to the drive-through window, bag it up and everything, and having someone else who can take orders on lane 2, all of a sudden now that becomes all one position. You have the person doing drive-through doing lane 1 and 2 and taking the money at the second window and handing the food out at the second window and bagging their own food. And sure, that's what you do at night when it's like 10 at night. But during lunch rush, that ain't gonna work. But if we gotta pay $25 an hour, or not we, but McDonald's has to pay $25 an hour, as well as everywhere else, Burger King, Wendy's, etc., that's just not feasible. That's not gonna fly. That's not gonna work. So now you think putting $25 an hour sounds good. Ooh, these people are making so much more money. Yet, how many people just lost their job because it's not viable for McDonald's to keep them employed? Half the staff maybe loses their job because it's not viable. Or, just like in the scenario with the small business owner, everybody gets drastic cuts to their hours. So they were working 40 hours a week. Now they're working 20 hours a week, 10 hours a week. So they're like super part-time. And even though minimum wage is much higher, they're just basically breaking even because they're making $25 an hour for 10 hours. So their take-home's $250 minus taxes. Where before, when it was $16 an hour and they're working 40 hours a week, round that up to 20, that's $800. So they would have been making much more at the current minimum wage than they would at this new minimum wage. Sure, the base number is higher, but they're making much less because it's not feasible for McDonald's or Burger King, whatever, to keep these people working full time. Additionally, there's the aspect of the prices of these places. As we all know, McDonald's prices suck nowadays. They used to be good. They had $1 menu, drinks were $1, any drink, any size. Now their prices are garbage. I mean, McDoubles. McDoubles were invented while I worked at McDonald's. They were invented to be a sandwich on the $1 menu. Now a McDouble is what? $2.99 as part of their 3 and under deal? And that's with current rates. Now, if we're talking Connecticut minimum wage going up 50% to be $25 an hour, then what happens to the McDouble? Does that go up 50% too? So now that $3 sandwich that was invented to be $1 is now a $4.50 sandwich? Like, having sky-high prices, minimum wage, is not going to benefit anything. All it does instead is it's going to make everything cost more, and now everybody's in that same pool. Instead of just minimum wage people struggling, everybody is going to struggle. They're not going to accept a loss in profits. So you make minimum wage $25 an hour, then they're just going to boost their prices way up to offset that they got to pay on their labor. And yeah, now we're all in the same boat. Instead of anybody living better, everything just costs more, and we're in the same exact position that we're in. And we just went from this to this. Nothing changed. Nothing got better. If anything, it got worse. Because now what's happening is instead of only the minimum wage workers struggling, it's everybody. As McDonald's gets more expensive, what was here was, say this was somebody before making $40 an hour, and here's McDonald's, and here's a minimum wage worker. Well, now minimum wage goes up, so does McDonald's, but this guy making $40 an hour is still only right here. So McDonald's used to be down here for him. Now it's catching up. Now minimum wage gets even higher. Uh-oh. Whoa. Now that guy making $40 an hour, he's still just making 40 because, I mean, his company can't afford to keep up with the minimum wage trends. You know what I mean? When minimum wage is down here and he's up here at 40, his company can't afford to, boost him way up like that and put him to, $120 an hour. If minimum wage increases 3 times, his company can't afford to boost his pay from $40 to $120 to maintain that 3 times increase. So now all of a sudden he's struggling more, it feels like, because everything else is getting more crazy because these minimum wage prices are astronomical. So everything that is a minimum wage service is now becoming more astronomical as well because companies ain't going to lose money. Additionally, service probably gets worse because we have less people working because these companies are either laying people off, not giving as many hours, not hiring, etc. So yeah, dumb idea. Anyways, moving on to a new idea. So I guess idea number 3 why minimum wage increases is dumb is, well, it's going to lead to more automation. So where this dickhead thinks, oh, if everybody on minimum wage is making $25 an hour, they're going to have more money in their pocket. Well, nobody's going to have money in their pocket if minimum wage jobs become jobs that are just all automated. Look at McDonald's. You go to a lot of McDonald's now, they got those dumb kiosks. You don't talk to somebody at the register anymore like you used to do 10 years ago. You go and punch in your order yourself. Well, at least that's kind of exclusive to McDonald's. But something like this happens, that'll be everywhere. It'll be like that at a Dunkin'. It'll be like that at a Wendy's. It'll be like that at a Burger King. It'll be like that at a gas station. Like, you're not going to have people anymore because it's not going to be viable to afford these people. Additionally, wherever else automation could be implemented, it probably will be. Let's take, again, McDonald's. It's right here. The fry station. The fry station possibly could be something that could be automated. For the most part, I mean, the fry dispenser already is automated. The whole thing, how it works, you put the bin in there and it goes down and it does its own thing. As you take a bin out, the machine knows and it drops another bin, fills it up automatically. So now all you need is an automated process that understands, hey, fries are low, let's go and take another bin, pop it in the grease. That's something very reasonable that, like, a company like Yushin or something could develop a robot that could do that. Now, granted, a person that works the fry station, it's not like it's a valuable employee. Not to talk poorly on anybody, but what I'm saying is you're very niche. The people that work the fry station don't really do much else. So if that job gets eliminated, okay, no big deal. And a lot of times, too, if you work the fry station, you do other things as well. So you're just not going to work the fries. But that's where it starts. Now that position's gone. Next up, they figure out how to get rid of, somebody who needs to cook. Now all of a sudden you hit a button and then the grills can just handle themselves, get meat from a conveyor belt or something that cooks the meat and blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on and on. And next thing you know, there's only 3 people working because everything else is replaced with machinery. Because $25 an hour was extremely impractical and these businesses knew they couldn't afford it. So they did the next best thing, which was replace people. So, where are you going to get on $25 an hour when you don't even have a job? And you can't get a job because companies don't need you because they have robots instead. Number 4, why I think minimum wage going to $25 an hour is dumb, is because, we can kind of lump 2 things together. One is, minimum wage jobs typically are extremely low skill. What I mean by extremely low skill is it's like a lot of people that work at these type of jobs don't need to have any kind of special education. A high school education is good enough. And it's basic work that you can learn literally in one shift. If you're competent enough, you can learn in one shift how to, get a job at McDonald's and make the sandwiches. Get a job at McDonald's and run the register. Get a job at McDonald's and figure out how to hand food out the window. Like, it's not hard. So that's why you get paid minimum wage, because you don't have a skill set and you don't have a bargaining chip. You can't negotiate with your employer, with the manager of the store, or even the owner of the McDonald's or whatever it is that you work at. You can't bargain with them and be like, hey, my job's valuable because of this. I demand this much money an hour. No, they'll just be like, all right, you want to put demands, then you're fired. We'll find someone else literally within an hour to replace you. And by tomorrow, it's going to make no difference that you're not here. So yeah, you don't make much money because what you do isn't really valuable. It's easy to learn, it's easily replaced. Again, like I was saying too with education, I mean, high school education, that's all you need. And you don't even really need a high school education. There's a lot of people who are just high school dropouts that get a job at McDonald's. And not only that, but they're able to work up. They can become store managers without even having a high school, without even a GED. So, they pay minimum wage for a reason. Like they say, you get what you pay for. Well, it's kind of the same thing. These places want to pay low amounts of money to their employees, but they know their employees aren't really worth more. No disrespect. It's just the reality of the situation. You're not worth more. The other thing, this is what I was saying, how it's kind of like a two-parter. The other thing is a lot of minimum wage jobs are high schooler jobs. These kids work there on the weekend. Maybe some nights during the week they work after school. Like for me, when I was in high school, I worked Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays. My shifts on the weekends were either very early, like 6 to 2, or I'd do like 11 to 7, both Saturday and Sunday, and then I'd work Fridays right after school. My shift was like 4 to 9, 4 to close, actually. The place I worked at closed at 10, so I'd do 4 to 10:30, because then you have to clean up and such before you can actually leave. But, yeah, so my point is do high schoolers really need to be making $25 an hour? I mean, high schoolers don't even need to be making $16.94 an hour. All a high schooler needs money for is to save up for a car, to pay for their car insurance, and then to have some money to dick around and like blow on the weekends with their friends when they go to the mall. Or I guess they don't do that anymore, but when that was a thing 15 years ago, money to blow at the mall. You don't have any bills. You don't have rent. You don't have to worry about health insurance. You don't have to worry about any other, gas bill, electric bill. My refrigerator died. Got to buy a new refrigerator. So like, we don't need to be paying kids a ridiculous amount of money. So then what happens? Kids can't get a job because we got to save them for the adults, or what? What happens then? It makes no sense. So this is like what I said in a video a little bit ago. Now, I don't know how long ago at this point, but I said what we should have is a couple of minimum wages. We should have like 3 different minimum wages. I think what should happen with minimum wage is you should have one wage that's for high school kids. Maybe they get the federal. Even if your state is like us, where we're $16.94, pay the kids that are like 18 and under, let's say, or under 18 just in general, the federal minimum wage. A kid making $7.65 while they're in high school is plenty enough money. Then you have a wage that's in between that. Maybe it's somebody who's in college. So they make something that's in between the federal and the max of $16.94. So that person's maybe around $12 an hour, so 11 something an hour. So that's because, they will need a little more money. They're kind of in the real world. They're going to need more gas money. Maybe they need money for their books for school, etc. But they're not fully in the real world. Again, they don't have rent and all this, so they don't need to make the maximum. But you give them a little boost over a high schooler. And then people who are in the real world and all they're doing is working at McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, fine, then they make the full minimum wage. But at least that makes sense. And economically, it's not going to destroy the system. At least it's staggered, and it's almost like raises. As you grow up, then you get a raise. When you're a kid, you make nothing. When you're a teenager, the middle stage, when you're in college, you make a little more. And then when you're an adult, fine, you make the full minimum wage. Which, as is, $16.94 is plenty enough. We don't need to boost that to $25. It's kind of stupid to be paying people that have no skills and no education and all this $25 an hour for a position that is very easily replaceable and most likely can be learned within a day. If you're competent enough, you can probably learn the job within a couple of hours. Like $25 an hour for that. So anyways, let's move on to new ideas now. So in this one, I think idea number 5, why this is a terrible idea, is, before we get going, I know my graphic's a little dated because it says Connecticut is at $14 an hour and federal is this. I couldn't really find one that was more up to date, but this was kind of close. I mean, it says on its way to 15. We're at $16.95 now, so it's kind of close. And I think federal basically still is $7.25. I don't think federal's really changed too much. So in that aspect, it's up to date. But anyways, new idea as to why this is terrible is increasing minimum wage to $25 an hour just minimizes, no pun intended, the impact or the significance, I should say, of people actually trying to go forward and learn a trade or get a degree or something of that sort. I mean, put it this way, when I started in my field back in 2011, I do engineering. When I started in my field, I was paid $14 an hour. Now, during those days, minimum wage was like $9 an hour or somewhere in that range, pretty close to it. So $14 an hour, although not a lot, even during those days, I didn't think it was that great, but it was still technically 50% more than minimum wage. So from a certain perspective, it wasn't bad. But that was with me having 2 college degrees at that time, going into a field of engineering, which usually carries a reputation of being a halfway decent job that pays you pretty well. And I was getting $14 an hour, which in today's world, that's less than minimum by $2 an hour. Kind of ridiculous. But if we were to maintain that, how I was making 50% more than minimum wage, with minimum wage going to $25 an hour, you'd have to start at what, $37.50 an hour? Or something like that. Yeah, $37.50 an hour. I don't think any firm, independent employer, etc. is going to want to hire somebody fresh out of college with really no skills at $37.50 an hour. I mean, $37.50 an hour is like what you make when you're midway through your career. You're like a 7-year veteran in the field. Now you're making $37.50. That's not something that you just make right out the gate with no skills. The employer's just taking a huge gamble on you. I mean, $37.50, that's like EB, Electric Boat, down in Groton, Connecticut. EB has a reputation of being like a good job. They have a great benefits package and such. And, pay is typically seen as halfway decent. And I think they have positions where you cap out at $37 an hour or something. Well, if minimum wage is $25 an hour, your $37 an hour job isn't going to seem that good anymore. And then it's what's going to happen? People are going to get that mindset of well, why do I want to work at EB where I know that's a lot harder work and such, if I can just get a job at McDonald's and make the same thing? At least now there's incentive. Yeah, okay, I can make $37 an hour. Sure, I might have to do a lot of hard work, long days and such, but it's worth it. It's the logic that they'll have. But when minimum wage is $25 an hour, no, they're not going to care. Same as people straight out of college. What's going to happen? People are going to graduate college and be making minimum wage or something pretty close to it. Maybe your employer pays you $28 an hour. We're giving you a little bit of a differential over minimum, but it's all right, in the grand scheme of things, it's only $3. But it's crazy because $28 an hour, not that long ago, even currently still, while minimum wage isn't $25 an hour, $28 an hour is a halfway decent rate. It's not great, I don't think so, but it's okay. It's decent enough. But if you have a college degree or 2, even, and all you get is $28 an hour, when you look at that in comparison to the minimum, it's geez, I just spent how much to go to college financially and how much time and effort to get my degree, and all I'm going to get is $3 more than minimum wage? It makes it feel like it doesn't matter. Why go through all that when you can just get a job working as a gas station tenant and make $3 less an hour? No debt from college, no time wasted on learning all these things, all the homework, all the class time. I mean, when I went to college, my schedule was hectic. I worked full time, so I worked in the mornings from 4:30 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. I'd go home, shower, then I'd go to school. I'd do my homework before class, and my classes started at 5:45 p.m., and then my classes were from 5:45 until it's supposed to be 10:15. Usually we got out a lot earlier. Teachers, my professors would let us out at 9:30. But still, then there's the drive home. So I wasn't home until at least 10:15. And yeah, that was a lot that I did. But the whole point was to make my future better. Imagine nowadays, minimum wage is $25 an hour, and you do all that crazy lifestyle just so you can make $3 an hour more than minimum. It's it just really minimizes all that effort. and it minimizes people who actually have skills. Obviously, if you're going to go to college, then you're more geared towards being an intelligent individual who can do something for society, versus somebody who's just graduates high school and then just gets a job at McDonald's or something, or Walmart or Stop and Shop or whatever, and just doesn't really put any effort in. They just, oh, I'm just gonna work a dumb job, and that's supposed to be for $25 an hour. Let's be real. I mean, this is something that I found on LinkedIn. Now, granted, it's a chart for India. I mean, it says right over here salary potential in India, so it's not super relatable, but the concepts relate. Like, see, this is like your roadmap. You go to college, you do good in something like CAD. You focus on a specific field that you're going to do for design engineering. You really gain your knowledge there. Then you can, grow and grow and grow. And then it's worth it. In the end, right down here it says where'd it go? Oh yeah, golden rule: focus on value creation, skill mastery, and solving big problems. High salary will follow you. That's the mindset to have. Granted, yes, this is from India, but the concepts still apply. You don't just go to a place like McDonald's and think you're going to be living large. That's a entry level job for high schoolers. What the message should be here, what Chris Murphy should be saying is, people should strive to better themselves. Don't think you're just going to get some loser job and live large. Do what you need to do. If you're not making enough at one job, get a second job then. Or try to go and find something better. There are better jobs out there that you don't need college for. Go to Amazon. They pay decently. Go to UPS, FedEx, get into the post office. Do something more than just a basic minimum wage job and expect to make $25 an hour. Also, what Murphy's solution should be, instead of just, minimum wage should be $25 an hour, it should be, hey, we're going to try to bring new manufacturing companies into the state of Connecticut. That way then we'll have a lot of good jobs for people to grab. Rather than coming up with the elementary school approach of, duh, I can't think. I think we should make $25 an hour to do a very basic job. No, you should focus on trying to get good industries and good businesses to build within Connecticut. Then that creates good jobs, and these people can go after those good jobs. But even still, even if you get a job at McDonald's or whatever and you're content there, you can still do okay. I know a guy who got a job at Burger King right out of high school, and he worked his way up. He became a district manager. And, they pay you decently. I mean, he had multiple cars. Every year he got a new Mustang. He had a house. He was doing okay being a Burger King district manager. Just work your way up. He didn't just work as a crew person and just stay there and expect to live large. He put the effort in. And that's what the message should be for everyone. You're not going to make $25 an hour doing nothing. You need to better yourself